Hey, Jerry Teach, you wrote a comment on my Zenny62.com blog that normally I would have deleted, but I decided to use your comment as a teachable moment. First, racism is defined, as it says here, as the belief in the superiority of one race over another, which often results in discrimination or prejudice toward people based on their race or ethnicity. And so what you've done is attempt to criticize me for pointing to generations of institutional racism in the National Football League. And you basically have done this in the context of me criticizing Jon Gruden, ESPN commentator and former head coach of the Oakland Raiders and Tampa Bay Buccaneers, for naming, even before he's selected as the Raiders head coach, 2 white coordinators that he wants to work with him, all right? Just putting that in the proper context of how all this came about. In your rant, you point to 2 very tired arguments. First of all, you say, oh, the Raiders hired Amy Trask as the first female CEO, Art Shell as the first African-American head coach, and Tom Flores as the first Latino head coach. I've heard it again and again and again. So let me get this straight. What you're saying is the Raiders deserve some brownie points for past efforts, okay? And therefore they get a pass and have the right to commit acts of institutional racism in the present. That's what you're saying, okay? That's exactly what you're saying. There's no other way around it other than to say that. That's exactly what you're saying. And then you make it worse, okay? You bring up this overused argument of population, talking about the number of African Americans in the population, but then you quickly move away from that to just basically say, hey, you know what? Here's a way to make sure we don't have a lot of black players in the NFL, because the NFL is 70% black. Yes, Jerry Teach, you wrote that, okay? You wrote that. Maybe you're trying to be a smart, you know what, or whatever, but you wrote that. And then you came up with some sort of what you thought was a formula of replacing black players with people who are not black, which basically means you have an issue with blacks in the NFL, period, okay? That's what you put out there. That's straight up what you did, all right? But the biggest and most racist act from you is that you, as a white man, are you a man or a boy? I'm not sure, would purport to tell me as a black person, a black man, what racism is. You've never been in a position where you're the only black person on a public vehicle and all the other seats around you are filled except the seat that that's sitting next to, which is empty. And then you see this happen to other blacks as well. You've never been in a position where you were the only black person in line, say at a convention, and the person who's working at that event area or booth decides to pass over you in handing out a document or a gift and exchanges and has conversations with everyone around you who's white. You've never been in a situation like that. I can go on and on and on with examples. And yet you, with all the history of racism against African Americans, both overt and institutional, are going to tell me what racism is. You gotta be out of your freaking mind, as well as racist. So we have more proof that racism is truly a mental illness. Because if you were in your right mind, you would never have issued, in black and white, a statement like the one that you did. No, you didn't call me a name, but you defended institutional racism. That's what you were doing. You defended institutional racism. Let me get this straight. Gruden says he wants to bring in, and I want you to pay attention, okay? Paul Guenther, the defensive coordinator, may perhaps soon be former defensive coordinator of the Cincinnati Bengals, and John Morton, the offensive coordinator of the New York Jets. Okay, so Guenther led a defense that was ranked, what, something in the area of 20, some ungodly low, like 28th ranked in the National Football League. 28th. The Bengals were 28th in total defense in the NFL, which means that they gave up more yards than 28 other teams above them, okay? Ooh, and so then let's take Mr. Morton, whose, Jets unit was 23rd in the NFL this year. Meanwhile, Carson Palmer retired, the quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals, and for a couple of years, the Oakland Raiders. And it is widely accepted, because numbers don't lie, people do, that his best years, Carson Palmer's, were with the Arizona Cardinals. From 2013 to the present, the offensive coordinator of the Cardinals, the offensive coordinator, okay? The offensive coordinator of the Cardinals. Again, the offensive coordinator of the Cardinals. While his offense ranked 23rd this year, okay? Get this, that was because Carson Palmer was injured. It ranked 9th last year. 9th. And the year before that, 2015, it was the #1 offense in the National Football League. Hal Goodwin was the offensive coordinator then and now, and Harold Goodwin is black. And yet, you don't hear the media talking about him, and you sure as heck didn't hear Jon Gruden saying his name. All that. And yet, some people, perhaps including yourself, have either the audacity or the idiocy, or both, to say, oh, Gruden's getting the best people for the job. We have a problem in this country where people assume that if you bring in someone white, they're automatically competent, which leads to a lot of problems. We get, well, the Challenger accident, and you get the idea. No. If you're going to believe in anything, believe in God. But with people, always scrutinize. But more to the point, stop rubber stamping institutional racism, dude. It's racist, okay? What you did was racist, period. There's no counter argument I want to hear from you. It was straight up racist.